All right, I am at my client's home. Gonna be working on something pretty crazy this morning. How are you? This is kind of like part two to that video I did assessing floor sag in a 100-year-old house. This is the house, and this is the hallway. And yesterday I put a couple beams in, and one of them already has been doing its job. I kind of pulled this floor up quite a bit, but it's still got a dip here. The joists are running from that kitchen straight towards us. So they're running in this direction. There was never any beams under here supporting it. Or there probably was if you watched the video and people knocked them out to do the plumbing and other work under the house. Part of the issue here is that this post here, the king stud for the door, this whole corner, as well as this one, this whole section of wall here is supporting the load to the second level of the house, right? When you're underneath here, you could tell, you should be able to tell by looking at this. It's going to be hard for me to get the camera that low, but because I have it on this kooky tripod thing. But right here, there's got to be the joist, and then this dips real hard here. And what that's telling me is that this post is floating on the floor decking between the two joists. There's nothing supporting this under here. So I've got a beam that's running on an angle back. I'll show that to you in a moment. And it's coming up to underneath this joist right here. And then I've got another one that's right about here right now, underneath here, that I might move over a little bit. But regardless, above both of those beams that are down there, in the space of the height of the floor joist, I'm going to make a 2x4 header that's going to go from this point over here all the way over to here. And underneath the header, on top of the post, I'm going to make a little 2x4 blocks, screwed together, that'll support that. So when I jack the beams up here, they'll force that header, which will be essentially another beam, from, again, this point to this point, and should lift all of that up at the same time. I've got a 30-ton house jack. Well, it's not really a house jack, but it's a 30-ton jack from Harbor Freight. It's been working. Let me take you down here in this kooky basement. And they've got none of this stuff should be here. It's all too close to the air conditioning unit. But here's the beam. You can see it. And I eyeballed that and nailed it. Right, it got right to the right spot. Now there's some cross bracing here between the joists. That's the way they used to do it in the old days. I'm going to have to knock that out. See the pecs we put in. The plumber put that in, move all the copper out of the way so I can do all this. And the end of the other beam, I think I got a flashlight on me, I do, is right here. So like I was saying, there's going to be a 2x4 beam I'm going to make that goes across the tops of both of those with a post to push up against the flooring. That rope there with the hole in the wood, that was done so that I could pull it through the house. Makes life a lot easier. And let me show you the next section. Okay, so that's under the house there. There was a 4x4 beam that was here that went in the opposite direction that wasn't really doing anything. You could kick it and it fell over. So I've moved that beam back here. And it essentially goes from right around that point to past this corner. And so I'm supporting this. It's way more solid here now. There used to be a lot of bounce in the floor. I may, after I get the long beam, again, which you just saw, it's right here. This is it right here. That beam right there is going on an angle, right through this, underneath this wall, right across here, to just past this point here, and it's 10 feet. So the other short one I just mentioned that's here, after I lift this up more, I'll probably come back over and support this a little bit. Under the house next. Okay. Okay, we're underneath the house here. I gotta find a few things, so bear with me. It's gonna be weird angles. stuff like that is going to happen. Yeah, that's the 4x4 post there that I moved over. You get some glare from that light there. Part of my trick underneath the house is to use cardboard. And I'll tell you, this is not, that's why it's called work, people. It's not happy fun time. I picked this light up to use as Makita batteries, which is pretty cool. And here's the first beam I put in yesterday. Again, that's running where you saw it. And there's a light on down at the end there. That's that basement. This is running in this direction. And you should be able to see here, that access is how I fed the 10-foot beams in. And you can see all the dust kicking up in here, probably on camera, that you're breathing in, which is no fun. And that beam there is running to here and running down that way. And it's sitting up on 2 piers. I brought this pier down. There's a pier down there. Don't know if you can see it. I'm going to use that one. I'm going to move that up underneath that darker beam. Help support that. And that 30-ton jack, you'll see more of that in a moment, is right here. So, yeah. I'm about to move my butt over underneath these waste pipes. Whole lot of fun. Not. Got to shimmy underneath there, get down to the end, and get some measurements. And, you know, actually, I don't really have to do that. I could just measure the height here of these joists, and that'll determine what I need to make with those 2x4s I was just talking about. Then I'll fish all that through, get down there, and start jacking. So I'll film some of this along the way. I didn't intend on making a video on this, but some people are curious, and it's good for my client. So Diane, if you're watching, hi. I'll catch you guys in a moment. All right, so here's my header. And the joists are 9 1/4 inches tall. So I've just got to make a couple little posts so that from this point to the bottom of that post, it's 9 1/4. Part of the reason I'm using 2x4s for this is because I had them. I used them as kind of like something to shore up under here. Just allow me to digress here for a moment. You may remember this needs final painting, but I got this whole beam done, all the dry rot repair. A bunch of the deck boards were rotted, and got the cove up. This is all done. It's just been primed, and next step is paint. But I had put some 2x4s up underneath here to support things, and I knew I was going to need some extra material for underneath the house. I'm still buying other material, obviously, but I knew this would come in handy. So that's the next step. The reason I've decided to put a 2x4 in the middle and widen this, all right, this is the orientation it'll be in above the beam, is because, you know, between the joists there's so much room, and it's kind of a guessing game where that corner post comes down. So I want a wide enough area to really support that the best I can. And also, you know, I can't get like a 2x12 and cut it down to 9 1/4 and fish it underneath there, tip it up, and get it up underneath the joists. So there's just no room. As a matter of fact, fishing this in there is going to be very difficult. That's not going to be an easy thing to do. And of course, then being able to use the jack, and you'll see that in a moment, because the jack presses down into the earth. And I tried using plywood yesterday, and that just, see what happened to that. I found that I had a big block of wood, that worked good, but even a 2x4, the main thing is the disengaging knob to lock and unlock the jack. That has to stay out of the dirt. Like when that bent up on me yesterday, I had to get a punch out and hammer it to spin it to release the pressure so I can get the jack out. I don't want to run into that again. So that's where I'm at. whole bunch of these. This would be nice. This is when you want a chop saw on a job site. But setting up and taking that thing down, by the time you do that, I'll have this part done. I don't have to do that much of it. It's not an all-day procedure here. I am going to probably buy the 6 1/4 Makita. It's a little bit large for this sort of thing. Check that. Make that work. All right. Stick around. Hey, listen, time is money. I'm not going to film every step of this. I just can't waste that kind of time. Underneath this house, it's blue collar yoga all day long. Rolling around on your back, shimmying around things, pulling muscles. My neck is killing me. And that's been, today's day 3 or 4 underneath this house. So I'll show you what I end up doing after I do it. And maybe a few more steps along the way, but that's it for now. All right, there's that 30-ton jack. That's this beam, and way down there is that header I put in. It's sagging down there. I've got to move this beam that way a little bit. I've got tension on this, so I've got to relieve the tension here so I can lower that, so I can move the pier and the beam to the left down there. Then I'll be set. All right, so let's see what happens here. And you know, there's a little music in the background. I hope that's not a problem, because I can't get over there to turn it off. It's too far away. I think it's Eddie Cochran, man. Maybe if I give him some credit, he'll give me some credit, right? This jack, it's interesting. It's like each stroke gives you like a 1/16 of an inch. So it's, I've got a beam down here that I placed, and it's going to press down more into the earth. But yeah. Now I'm right underneath this bathroom, and there is tile in there. I didn't notice anything happened to it yesterday. And as I mentioned, I got to get this out of here, this block, so I can pivot this beam around a little. So let's see what happens. So far, this jack's been doing a pretty good job. It works better when it's got resistance. When you're trying to pump it to get it to go up, it's like it doesn't want to move. But once it encounters resistance, it actually starts working better. I guess that's just how they work. I don't know. I'm happy if this thing does the job I need it to do now. So that's getting loose there. Ah, nice, nice. Now, I can drop this, and the beam will come down. And that'll give me enough play now where I can adjust it down at the other end, as I was just showing you. Fun stuff. I gotta move this. I already moved the pier. I gotta spin it in the dirt to shorten it down a little bit. And this is not any fun, as you guys can imagine. All right, I'm up on top of these. Man, this is impossible. Waste pipes. I shored them up with some 2x here, so I put a little weight on them. But you know, I got a lot of friends that were in the service, Marines, and some of them like to goof on me because I didn't serve that long, and they did, and I bring it up. But this is one of those cases where you bring it up again, because the great thing about doing that sort of thing is like, oh, is your job dirty? To crawl around the mud a little bit? Oh, okay. Well, you get along in life and you realize learning to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations, slightly miserable, is something that, all right, that should do it, I think. is something, if you, well, gotta go down a little more. But again, if you can get comfortable in uncomfortable situations, it's just gonna help you deal with adversity later in life, you know? I don't know if you guys can see any of this, but yeah, that's just what I'm dealing with here. So, you know, they don't design this stuff to be easily worked on, I'll tell you that much. But again, if you look at the other video I mentioned earlier and you think about what's going on down here, you got to ask yourself, like, what was happening? Like, why am I doing this right now? Why do I have to do this? I mean, I have to do it because there's the entire center of this house is sinking, right? And it has been for quite some time. The floor joists here are just over 9 inches, tall, like 9 1/4. And thank God for that. Thank God for, okay, I think we got the clearance, barely. Yeah, okay, that should work. And we should be in a better spot. Still not perfect, but when I say not perfect, I was trying to get the two ends of those beams 3 feet apart. It's not going to happen. That's why I made that header piece 5 feet, so it'll cantilever over both sides. Okay, I'm going to get the beam run through here next. Leave this here because I need that to support the header afterwards. Oh boy. I don't know how I'm going to get this underneath that header. I don't know how that's going to happen yet, so bear with me. I don't know what the heck I'm recording down here, if anything. I don't really know if you can see anything, but I'm giving it a shot here.
James Brown is dead.
Oh my God, you don't want to hear that song, I can tell you that much. James Brown is dead. That was a crazy dance song in the 90s. Alright, I'm under the house. Basement's over there. There's that header I was talking about. Close to this, but we're okay, I think. Yeah, we should be right there. And had to put another one here. I'll show you the top side in a minute. This beam started cracking on me right where there's a knot. So I had to go underneath here and jack right under here, get this 2x in here. And this beam is sagging here. So I got another pier I'm about to put in. I'm wedged between the two of them right now. It's crazy. I just got that shimmed up right. And then that beam goes down. So it's, oh my God. This is crazy. But it's getting big. You might see a sag here. I started cranking on it, but there's still a sag that my eye can see. Just don't know if it's being picked. All right. So I got this block in underneath the tub. Not much holding the tub on except for and on the back ones, I can't get to them, but there's so much meat that's overlapping off the pier, I'm not worried about it. I'm about to put some straps on this white 4x4 there. I just sighted this, it's straight. And I put this little one in because it was here. Just, why not? I'm under here, why not just try to do a better job? So that's what's happening right now. Where you at?
Hello.
I got the boys down here. All right, just getting some strapping in place on the posts, holding things in there. Not worried about this one. I'm gonna leave it there for now, but I might take it out later. Pretty much done with this. Where's August?
Right down here. Down here.
Here's Nico. They're having a blast under here. It's fun to get little kids under the house. Camera. Okay, so the red is the hot water, the blue is the cold water, and it used to be all copper, but we took all the copper down because it was hanging too low, and I had to put these beams in, and I never would have been able to put the beams in if the copper was still in the way.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's pretty neat because all that stuff is flexible. It's like you can just kind of push it around a little bit, but I don't want you guys touching it because you can't pull on it. If you pull on it, you might, separate a joint and then the water will leak all over the place. We don't want that.
I can see the back.
Kind of cool, huh?
Where's the basement?
So there's if you look right in front of you, there's a skeleton of a mouse.
Oh.
You see it?
Uh-huh.
It's right there on the ground. Kind of cool.
You sure that's a mouse?
Yep.
You should put it in the front yard so everybody would be scared.
All right. This is all did. Jacked the floor up. Got the beams under here. I just wanted to show that there are cracks inside here and up there and up here. This is all a good sign. That's a very good sign that you just met the boys under the house. So what this tells me is that, obviously I jacked the house up. Yesterday, I jacked it up and it was binding on this side, which told me I had to lift the beam that's going underneath here. And then there's some cracks in here too. So definitely moved the house around, which is all good. And including here, in this room here, there's cracks. You can't see that, but there's cracks going right along this wall and up. So this is all stuff that I'm gonna have to repair. And obviously, I've got to finish off this closet. And keep in mind, this entire floor here was a bowl before. It was all dished out. Now it's nice and flat. And that was the big thing. There's still a pretty big hump in the floor here that was always there. And from this point to that bathroom, you would never be able to lift it. I can't even lift it any higher than I did. But at least now it's all flat here. There's no longer a bowl. Say hi, Nico.
Hello.
It's a good kid. I'll catch you guys next time. Be good to one another. All right, so we're under the house. This is the front. See the van out there. And I did get these two posts shimmed, and I got some straps on them like I said I would. The rest underneath here, it looks all good. A lot of beams and piers and posts across the bottom of this house here, which is all good. This I'm sure was put in before they sold the house. Same here. All that stuff stacked over there is the basement, that little basement area. So everything else is looking good. They didn't even bother putting straps from the beam to the joists. I did that underneath the center of the house where I had to jack that up. It doesn't matter that much. It's just always a good idea to add a couple straps here and there. There's going to be shake, rattle, and roll, right? And when that happens, you just don't want anything to tumble over. This will all be in place over a pretty good, hefty shake. So anyhow, I'm done, I think. This part of the job anyhow. I think I ended this video a minute or two ago, but this is officially the end. Have a great day, be good to one another, and catch you next time. I thought the video was over, but I have to show you this. And the homeowner pointed this out to me. So this door in this hallway used to hit the floor, and you can see there's a slight scrape mark on the flooring right here. And now it clears without any issues. Now the floor, I mean, you know, I never mentioned you can make this house totally level. I was just trying to support the center of the house. I had to bring the center of the house up. And it definitely raised this section in here. But it's still out of whack. And this is a very old house. And the really strange thing, and I didn't do anything with this, this was always like this, but there's a real high point here. This goes right down to the basement, and there's a beam in the basement with 4x4 posts where that's probably original. So what I'm thinking is probably the house settled in both directions. And then over the years, other people came in, put beams in, like I showed you under the house. And they weren't really trying to level anything. They were just trying to support it, which they did. And that's about all you can do, other than pulling your whole house off the foundation wall and coming in and, you know, spending $60,000 or $100 grand or more, you know, trying to sort all that out, which you don't need to do on an old house. So fortunately up here I don't see any damage from what I did. There's cracks in the ceiling, but they look to me like they were there already. But, you know, it could have made it a little bit worse, which is fine. We all knew that we're going to have to come back and do some work on patching afterwards, but pretty stoked about that. And it seems to be working a little bit better too. So I think what I did down there actually did affect the second level, which you would suspect, but that's not always the case, because the second level, while the middle of the house is supported at that point below, there's also other framing going on up here, and the ceiling joists from below, floor joists here, which are resting on other parts below. So, you know, I'm certain all this was pushing down, but there could be a gap between the top of the studs of the walls below and the floor joists here to a certain extent. So raising this that much, I didn't really expect that, but I did, because now the door works, so that's pretty good. Anyhow, now I'm done.